Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you happen to be. Welcome to today's webinar. I see people are still joining us, so we'll wait a minute or two, then we'll get started. Hello, everybody. My name is Andy Elwood. I'm the Product Marketing Manager here at Pulseway, and I'm joined this afternoon by Nicholas Gonzalez, our Senior Software Development Engineer, to talk about our workflow automation. Many of you are using this already, and you may have noticed we've made some changes recently. So the point of today is to highlight the benefits of those changes, and also if there are any questions around workflow, we can try and do our best to help. So just to talk about the key points with our workflow automation 2.0, it's a new, cleaner interface, which you'll notice. It's easier to kind of add logic on some of the more complex steps, and this change is not just aesthetic change. It makes it significantly quicker to load and navigate around. So you have the power we've always had the power in our workflows to build very complex multi-layer workflows, but now maybe they became a little bit slow to move around, but now that has changed, and now they're a lot easier and quicker to use. And there's also copy and paste support for actions and conditions. So if you're building multiple steps, it's easy to move stuff between those steps. So just have a quick look before Nicholas shows you. I'll show you what the interface looks like. You immediately see a bit of color, and that's fine. But it also has one big difference, and this is the navigation, how you can actually change, how you can edit those steps. So on this send email step, I want to do that. Instead of actually opening up and trying to work within the step on the workflow diagram, this side box opens up, and where you can actually write an email. It's clearer, it's easier to write a full body email, and you can put variables in and all that kind of stuff as well. So that is the big kind of difference that you'll notice if you haven't looked into workflows in the last week or two. So that's really all I wanted to say, just to introduce this new format to you. Now we'll hand over to Nicholas. If you have any questions during the demonstration, please use the Q&A box at the bottom of the screen. That's the best route, as opposed to chat, to ask questions, because we can monitor those and we can record them, and we can follow up if we need to. If we can't answer, we'll try to answer as many questions as we have. And we might try and save some to the end, but if there's something relevant that happens during it, we'll see if we can handle it then. Okay, so I will now hand over to Nicholas. Are you ready, Nicholas?
Yeah, Andy. I'm going to share my screen now.
Okay.
Great. Could you let me know if you can see?
Yep, we can see that now, thanks.
That's great. Thank you so much. Okay, well, as Andy was saying, we launched automation workflows at the mid of last year, and since then we've learned a lot. We're very happy with the amount of people that are using workflows. We keep a close eye to see how you guys are using it. We've been in contact with a few of you who were dealing with more complex problems and ended up building really large workflows. So this last redesign was focused on that, on solving issues for very complex workflows that have multiple nested conditions, multiple steps. And we've noticed that even though we were very happy with the functional aspect of workflows, it needed a complete redesign to improve in performance and mostly user experience. You probably noticed that the web started to evolve in terms of user experience, and that's something that we want to keep pushing. Every release, we try to improve a little bit more, unifying patterns that were not consistent before. And for workflows, we're pushing it a bit further. Let's go and dive into one of the workflows I created. So as you can see, the UI changed a lot. It's a lot more clear to follow what the workflow is doing. One of the things we've introduced is something we like to call dynamic titles. Basically, unless you rename a step, either a condition or an action, we will try to determine what the best title for that step should be. So in this case, if I'm sending an email to it@pulseway.com, the workflow automatically determines that's the best title for this step. You can go ahead and click on the step. Now all the configuration you can see move to a panel on the right. That makes the flow part of the workflow a lot easier to follow and keeps all the configuration centralized in a single place. Now, if I want to rename the step, I can do it as before. I can just click on rename and I assign the name that I would like for this step to have. Otherwise, Pulseway will automatically determine the best name for you. And that applies to all steps, actions, and conditions. Another thing you'll notice is that the steps are a bit smaller. That's intended, so more content can fit on the screen. So for very large workflows, it's much easier to read what's going on. One of the key aspects that we introduced as well is the ability to collapse conditions. We've seen really large workflows with 50 nested conditions that were really hard to deal with. So by collapsing conditions, you basically reduce the scope of what you care about until you need to see it. We also added a little shortcut on the top left, so you can collapse all the conditions or expand them all. And then if you collapse them all, you can progressively disclose whatever you want to see. So I'm going to show you later a bigger workflow, and you can see how easy it is to do that. In terms of functionality, what we decided to do for this one, as well improving the user experience, is to support a very popular request that we've noticed in our feature request page, which is the copy and paste functionality. So that's another button other than to the button section of the step. Just like move to, copy is very similar. Just click and then you paste whatever you want. And this, as you can see, is not limited to just actions. You can copy conditions, and the entire condition with its actions will be copied as well. So this makes it very easy to reuse, especially when you're dealing with emails. We noticed a lot of people creating multiple emails that were similar. So the first step to solve that problem is copy paste, but it's not the last step. The next step for that will be in a future release when we introduce the concept of email templates for workflows. We would like to create specific templates you can reuse across different workflows. So you only have to reference that instead of having to create multiple send email actions that look the same. Also, if you need to make any changes to a template, you do it in a centralized place instead of having to edit each action. For this release, we've introduced a copy paste, which will help, but it's not the last iteration for this particular problem. Let's take a look at a bigger workflow. One of the things that we were discussing before, on top of user experience, we want to improve performance. As you can see, this workflow, which has many nested conditions, I created an excessive amount on purpose just to demonstrate how fast it is to load. This would not work with the previous iteration. There's over 50 here. You can of course reset the focus now. It will bring it back to the start. If I click collapse all, everything gets collapsed, and I can progressively disclose the steps that I want, and you can see how the workflow starts to grow. But it's much easier for me to follow what's happening instead of having everything at once. We came to the conclusion that when dealing with a large workflow, you probably don't need to see the entire workflow at once. You're focused on specific sections. So this is where this approach is coming from. But now again, if you would like to expand them all, you just click expand all, and everything's back to normal. But again, as you can see, it's pretty easy to load everything again. Where before something like this would take around 30 seconds, now it's pretty instant. So we're very happy with that. Workflow history stayed relatively similar to what it was before, just now it's with the new UI. You can still collapse conditions in the workflow execution in case you won't follow what happened. But rather than that, beyond that is pretty much the same. Mostly a purely UI UX change. We can go through some of the actions for some of you that are not familiar with workflows. Maybe do a little bit of a quick refresh of what you can do. Basically, for those of you who haven't used workflows before, they are an extension of notifications. So everything starts from a trigger. The triggers, let's create a new one so it's easier to follow. The triggers we support are these: applications added, high CPU, high ping time, low disk space, low memory, ping errors, port not available, when a process starts or stops, when a service stops, when a system gets registered or goes offline, when it comes back offline, when a user logs in, or there's a website error. So when a system sends any of these notifications, if you have a workflow for it that is active as well, because I can deactivate the workflow in case I don't want this to execute at the moment. When that happens, the workflow will start executing, and it's a sequential workflow. So one step will happen after the next. So in the workflow, you can add actions and conditions. Conditions are pretty powerful. You can add as many rules as you need. You can nest as many steps as you need. Therefore, the big change we just introduced. And you can reference any parameter available for the trigger. For example, in this case, if it's a high CPU trigger, I can reference the process name, the CPU usage, so on. Because all these are triggered by notifications, which are triggered by systems, computers. I have access to the computer's parameters. So, for example, the computer name, which customer is this computer associated with, and scope, if it has any tags, so on. We also support custom fields. So any custom information that you wish to log in your systems can be retrieved through conditions. And if I, for example, if I, for example, have an action before a condition, let's say add tags. Sorry, there you go. I can reference the output of this action as part of the condition. So if this action, if the outcome of this action is yes, so it means that it executed successfully, then I can react to that. Also, for example, if I let's say I use the script action, which is also very powerful. In this case, let's test with the webinar script. This script supports an input. Basically, we can tell the script, we can pass in values for the variables that it exposes. So in this case, the script webinar exposes the variable run as administrator. We call them inputs. So from your workflow, you can provide inputs to the script, but you can also read the outputs of the script. This particular script outputs a result. So in this case, from either a condition or a send email action, I can read the outcome of the run script action. All actions have outcomes, basically meaning if they run successfully or not. And scripts also may expose custom outputs that you create. So in this case, I created one called result. So when this script finishes running, it will return this result variable. And I can use it as part of a condition to determine which part of the flow needs to continue, or I can use it as part of the email, which also you can use. You can basically build any sort of type or any sort of custom emails you wish using the same parameters as the conditions. So for example, I think I have it in the previous workflow. Let's see, in this case, I'm sending an email to it@pulseway.com telling them that there's a service that stopped in the system. So whenever this workflow executes through a notification trigger that was sent by a system, because we have access to which system sent the notification, then we can then determine what's the name of the system and any of the other parameters that we've been discussing before. Also, we have access to the notification properties itself. So for example, the service that stopped, we can log which one it is, to which computer it's affecting, and for which customer. So we can build more dynamic and custom emails than just plain text. This, of course, as I mentioned before, will be extended further once we introduce the email template. So just to recap, this iteration was focused mostly on UX. We're very happy with the new UI. It's a lot cleaner, it's a lot more compact. It helps you follow the workflow in a much more clear way. It's a lot faster. Again, as you can see, I can click here, and in less than 2 seconds, I have over 50 steps already available. The scrolling is very smooth as well. We were facing some issues there when there was a lot of content. It was very hard to scroll. So that's not a problem anymore. Collapsing also, it's instant. There's no lag there. And by moving everything to the side panel, everything's more focused on the configuration side. In some cases, some actions don't have any parameters, so we just let you know in this side that there's nothing to see here. We're planning on expanding this section and using it to be a bit more descriptive and help people that are not familiar with workflows understand how they can use them better. So this section that right now is a very generic placeholder will change in our next release to be more descriptive and tell you more about the action that you're using. So when it happens, what can you do with it, and anything that we feel like it's relevant for you to see in this particular area. That will help you resolve problems that with this workflow that otherwise you might not really know. That's pretty much the bulk of the changes we made. And there was some minor bug fixes, but nothing major. So I guess we can move on to the questions.
Okay, thanks, Nicholas. Just start with the questions that have come in. Will we have more triggers in the future? Are there plans for more triggers?
Definitely, yes. We don't have a list yet, but we definitely are planning on adding more triggers. And we're also planning on having triggers that are not necessarily notifications. So integrations with other parts of the platform, not necessarily just notifications.
Okay, and I think that's a good reminder for people that if you go to the What's New menu item in the tool, and you'll get and then you'll see a request a feature button, or you can go to feature.pulseway. I've got that wrong. I'll send you the link. So we have our feature request page. You can get from the What's New page, and you can actually request specific features that we can then use in the in our development process. So then the next one is so someone is. He says he's trying to create multiple workflows with the same trigger. So 2 workflows with a service stopped, one for service A, one for service B, to keep it nice and tidy. Is there a way of doing that, or are we looking at a way of doing that to create multiple workflows for the same trigger?
Not at the moment, but it's a problem that we already are thinking of fixing. This is a conscious decision from us. We didn't want multiple systems. Sorry, we didn't want the same system to execute multiple workflows at the same time. That's why you have a single trigger active at the same time. That's going to change. We're going to introduce a different way of organizing them, where you can be a bit more granular, maybe maybe associating the workflows by agent group or customer or site, maybe scope. We're still on the development planning phases on that, but there's definitely something coming for that particular problem.
Some stage during the course of the next few months. Okay, so next one, can you apply workflow to a single machine, or does it have to be done as a condition?
For now, it has to be part of a condition, but then again, that's part of the same problem that we were discussing just now. So we will tackle that particular issue then.
Okay. Can events from patch management be used as triggers?
No, that's a great idea, by the way. And again, we want to include triggers that are outside of notifications, and that will be one of the ones we could definitely do. But right now, only notifications.
Okay. I think I know the answer to this one. Do the actions contain ticket opportunities in Pulseway PSA?
Not yet, but again, we want to add more integrations for workflows, and we actually discussed this one internally. This is a very good candidate for a new action. Okay,
so is it possible to drain roles and fail roles back on a node in failover cluster manager with this automation?
I think we'll have to get back to Jeremy later on this one. I'm not sure.
Okay. And we'll also get back to Vikram later as well. So, Carl, good question. Can we export or import workflows?
You can definitely import. We have this functionality called import from template, where we support at the moment just a very limited amount of workflows, but we are planning on growing this list and make it available to certain publishers. So if you don't want to start from scratch for the high CPU or service stop workflows, you can definitely use ours to get you a jump start and then customize it further. But this is definitely gonna evolve into more of a collaborative approach and let people import and export their own workflows. At the moment, it's just focused on the ones Pulseway provides.
How can you use input prompts with the API calls for tasks?
Well, the inputs are for scripts. We don't support them for tasks. So if you want to read an input for a script, you can do it through an action, but for tasks, you would not be able to do it. So you would need to add a script individually if you want to support an input for it. So for example, I can show you if you have a script. You see, I can create an input here. And then that input will be available as a variable as part of my script that I can then use to run anything that I need within the script. Now, this is not available for tasks at the moment. Now, it's something we definitely want to do. We just didn't have many interest on this yet, I don't think. But you should definitely open if you go to the feature request, you can open it there, and we take this very seriously. We go through them very often, and as you can see the actual progress, you can see a lot of the features that get pushed and get votes are already done and delivered. So if you think this is a good case, please add one here in feature request.
Okay, and do workflows work on Macs?
I'm not entirely sure. I'll get back to you on that one.
Okay, thank you. Is there documentation or example workflows available? Somebody hasn't started using them yet.
Yeah, I recommend the first thing to do would be, well, you can play with them. They're very intuitive, very simple to use. But if you go to the onboarding and training video section, there's a big section on automation that covers how to use workflows. I recommend you check them all because they're very, very good. But there's a lot to get you started on this video and automation.
Great, thank you. And somebody's back to the new triggers. What sort of timeline are we looking at for the introduction of new triggers?
I don't have any at the time, but it's probably going to be before the mid of this year.
Okay, so in the next okay, so Q2 probably we might start seeing some. Excellent. If you have an alert that results in a triggered action, does it cancel the dashboard alert?
So no, it will still be part of the dashboard unless you manually delete. So the workflow has a step called delete notification, which will delete the notification. Other than that, the notification will still be there. The only thing the workflow does is marks the notification as read. So because the purpose of the workflow is to auto remediate. So if we try to resolve the problem, if the problem is solved, then you shouldn't really care about the notification anymore. So we only mark it as read. So it will still be part of the dashboard. It will still be part of your notification list unless you use the delete notification action as part of your workflow and you get rid of it.
Okay, thank you. Somebody wants to know whether it's possible to print the workflow.
Well, it wasn't possible before. We don't have a way to do it through the UI, but the new UI redesign makes it very easy for us to implement that feature. So please add this one if you feel like it's something you would like to see in feature request, and we'll definitely take a look. It's definitely possible with the new technology that we're using to render the workflow. where before it would have been very complicated. Now it shouldn't be a problem.
Okay. Is there a way if we can get a top 10 or 20 workflows being used? This particular person is only using two global ones, but he feels there's more we could automate with workflows, but just not sure where to expand these to.
Okay. Yeah, we don't have that right now. I think that would be great if we could communicate a bit more about what people use them for. And of course, that will integrate really well with the collaborative approach that we want to move forward with. So that's a great suggestion. Unfortunately, right now we don't have a way.
Maybe in the forum, the Pulseway forum, right, we could swap ideas from the resources page. So will there be more scripts available so they will be available to workflows?
So if there's a lot actually of built-in scripts in Pulseway. If you feel like you need some that you're not getting, just please post it in feature request and we'll get to it. Any scripts that you create are available immediately to workflow. So you can use any of the scripts that you have in your script library, either created by us or by yourself.
And I think this is a similar issue. It says delete notification in console, which I think is probably linked to the notification in the dashboard. So Alfred, if you could just give us a little bit more information about what you meant by that one. Is there going to be an option to keep drivers up to date with patch management? I'm not sure that that's actually a workflow question.
Well, I guess you could have a way to do it with workflows, maybe, but there's nothing we support right now for that. But it's a great idea, though, so I would definitely add this to the feature request page.
As I said, by all means, use the feature request page because we do actually look very closely at those. And I see someone who said he's going to do that. Okay, so sorry, we didn't answer Martin's question correctly. So if you're looking, so the question was, are we looking to add the possibility to create multiple workflows with the same trigger? That's not allowed.
Sorry, it's not allowed currently, but yes, we want to move to that direction. We want to be able to create workflows with the same trigger and have them all active at the same time. It's not something we support. It requires a bit of re-engineering because we don't want a system to run 3 workflows at the same time because that could cause problems. You can have multiple scripts running. And also you need to be able to clearly understand what's going to happen. Right now it's very easy. You have a group of systems that if they send a notification, they will execute a workflow. If you have multiple ones, then things start to happen and you're not sure from where. So we want to do that. It's just something that needs to be done very, very carefully. But it's definitely a limitation right now that we want to address.
Okay. How do you change the input based on user input versus the default values?
That's a very good question. I'll show you. So again, I have my script. Let's open that again. So I created a script with an input run as administrator, which has a default value of false. So in my workflow, if I add the script webinar, you can see there I have the list of inputs. In this case, just one, run as admin, and no is the default pre-selected value because that's the default value here. And I can just change it as yes. And then when the workflow executes this script, it will send the input run as administrator as true because I set it as yes.
Okay, thank you. is automatic notification deletion coming if an alert gets cleared without doing it with the workflow?
Not sure what you mean by that. So the delete notification is a step that you have to manually create on the workflow. So that's the only way we delete a notification from the workflow. Otherwise, it just gets red, marked as red. It will not be removed from the list.
Okay, so if we didn't answer the question, Chris, let's just get back. Is there a workflow action to send customized notifications to Slack?
Not at the time, but if you think that's a good integration to have, again, feature request is the best place to post that.
Is it possible to add notes or comments to help remember the reason for different steps?
Actually, we don't have that, but that's a great idea. I'm going to keep a note on that.
Okay. Yeah, so does workflow support non-auto start services? I tried this previously, but Pulseway didn't detect it, even though it's listed in monitored services.
Okay. Maybe Jeremy, if you can send us an email, we'll look at this in more depth to try to understand exactly what your problem is. We do support the ability to start, stop, and restart services through workflows. As long as the service is being monitored by the agent, you should be okay. If you're having any issues with that, just let us know. We'll get back to you as soon as we can.
Okay, and there was one question that came through on chat, so I'm not sure whether we've actually covered it. How do I use an API to call Pulseway to trigger a workflow of any type on a server?
No, because workflows at this particular stage are constrained by notification. So you only get a workflow triggered by an agent notification. If a computer sends any of the alerts that we support, well, let me show you again the list. If a computer sends any of these and you have a workflow that's active, that's the only way to start a workflow at the time. Again, as I mentioned before, we do want to support different triggers that are not necessarily associated with notifications. But at this particular point in time, we only support notification triggers.
Okay, thanks, Nicholas. I think that's the end of the questions. There, so there are a couple of people have asked whether there's a recording. Oh, hang on, I've just seen one more question. There's a couple of people asked whether there's recording. Yes, this is being recorded. It will be available on Zoom. You'll be sent a link automatically tomorrow. Tomorrow. But also this is being streamed onto YouTube. So if you go to the YouTube Pulseway channel, you can see a recording of it there as well. And so the last question just snuck in here: is it possible to run a signed policy action on a system is registered trigger workflow?
I believe so. Let's check actually. System is registered. No, I don't think we can. I don't see it here. So no, you cannot use that one for this particular trigger.
Okay. So as Nicholas said, put the feature request in. I sent in chat a link to the feature request page. You see the other people's features that we and we read those. You see other people have submitted lots of things. We do read those very closely. You can also see the ones that we're looking at and the ones that are in development on that page as well. And just a couple more questions have dropped in. Was there a time delay on the condition?
No, it's we were planning on introducing a step called wait. It's not part of the current version of workflows, but it's something we've considered in the past, something that some people asked before. Basically, a wait action will let you use it before or after conditions, whatever you'd like. And
Okay.
sorry, for David, the question I asked him before, just could you please send us an email and we'll discuss this a bit further. We need to check there. I believe there's a business reason why this is not supported. I need to review that and get back to you. But if I'm mistaken, if this is not correct, then I don't see any reason why not to make it available. I just need to double check. So just please send us an email and I'll get back to you on this.
And just finally, there were a couple of people who asked questions that were kind of slightly off topic. We'll get back to you. I'll get back to you when this is over. So we haven't ignored you. Don't worry about that. And I think if that is, you have my email address from the invitation you got to attend the webinar. So if you have any questions or any follow-up, by all means, feel free to contact me. And I think that's all the questions we have. So, oh, there's one more. Is there going to be an option to keep drivers up to date with patch management?
So that's related to patch management. So we will get back to you on.
All right, as opposed to within the workflow. Okay,
yeah.
Right. Thank you, everybody. That's the last question. So we will get back to you on those. And there was, as I said, there will be an email around this time tomorrow that will have a link to the recording of this webinar. But thank you very much for your time and your questions. Don't forget those feature requests. We do take them seriously. And thank you and goodbye. Thanks, Nicholas.
Thank you. Bye-bye.